YouTube, Brian working with Scrubs Unite here. We wanted to start up a new topic, and I figure since everybody hates me for being a meta-disliking scrub anyway, you know, why not have me do it? So I wanted to come across the concept for Ranting, Raving Thursdays. So pretty much what this is every week or so, if I can help it, we'll be coming up with topics like, you know, controversial topics or topics that a lot of meta players might not agree with, or things that some people might agree with because they seem too gimmicky or just too out there. So the first one I wanted to go off of today is I really just feel like Konami kind of railroads you into playing certain decks. You know, especially with links, they made certain decks virtually unplayable until the links finally get released. Other ones they just killed out entirely, which makes it virtually impossible for you to be able to enjoy a game like it. Burning Abyss until we get Cherubini is going to be completely dead. Gladiator Beast until we get Dragacious is the same way. And really, the only ones that are doing anything that got a link is Zephyra, Metal Foes, and Pendulum Magicians. So, I guess I just wanted to go over the gimmicky kind of, you're forced to run these cards and decks in the game. Like, I really feel like Pendulum Magician is one of the #1 forced decks to be just kind of crammed down our throat. Pendulum Magician didn't really take much of a hit when Master Rule 4 came out because even though they couldn't summon from the extra deck much, they still had the Swarm ability, and Zark Magician was still a thing. They still had the Star and Time Pendulum Graph, and they didn't really have to steer into links right away. They could still actively play kind of with that, and it was the only deck that could out of the Pendulum lineup and still survive, which is what kind of aggravated me, because I feel like it was being just crammed on us, because people were like, Spiral Tier 0? Okay, Spirals are gone now, so Pendulum Magician's going to be the next best deck. I called this back before Master Rule 4 was in place. I said Pendulum Magicians are going to be good. I didn't really want them to be, but they were going to be. The next one, honestly, is 60 card variants. Main reason that 60 card variants are still good is because of Snow. If you take Snow down to 1, you force them to spend a Foolish Burial on Snow that might be a Foolish Burial they can't access. Left Arm Offering banishes your hand, and then you get the Grass, and you might not hit the 1 Fairy Tale Snow. Leaving Snow at 3 is what makes the deck so good, and if you take away that Snow access easily, then it leads it to where you have to run more of a Lightsworn Mill Engine, and that's something players aren't willing to do. That causes a lot of problems for the game, and a lot of people just don't like it because it's kind of a gimmick OTK deck. The fact that it dies to macro, defissure, and stuff like that's kind of irrelevant, but my point is that when it comes to Snow and 60 card variants in general, they're kind of just crammed on us because they didn't need Master Rule 4 to hurt them, because they really didn't need the massive swarming of Synchros to win. They were kind of already sitting on double Omega past turn anyway. And if you was to remove Snow from the situation, the Giant Rex into Minerva for the free mill, it's just something that would help kind of balance it out, I feel like. And it would even make Left Arm and Grass kind of more of a dependable play rather than a bonus. The next one is, I kind of feel like this entire engine is kind of overplayed, but the Brilliant Fusion engine. I don't really like gimmicky mini engines that can be splashed into any deck. I don't like it because it causes problems. You see it too frequently. It kind of becomes a standard for people to run it, and it jacks the prices up and abuses archetypes that weren't meant to be abused. Brilliant Fusion and whatnot is being abused in Goki, being abused in Lightsworn, being abused in, I can't name off how many different decks, and it's all because it's so splashable with the Predaplan engine. And really, that's what irks me about it, because I feel like when the engine gets hit, it's going to have to hit the Gem Knight side of it instead of hitting the Predaplants, because they're going to want to hit Gem Knight FTK as well. So they're going to want to hit the FTK decks, they're going to want to hit the Brilliant Fusion engine as a whole, and they're not going to hit the Predaplant engine. And hitting one entire archetype just to stop a mini engine that's way overly abused in this game just doesn't seem fair. aka the Lyrilusk engine, but we're not going to get into that. And it kind of, I don't know, a lot of meta players will think I'm a scrub for not liking that, but I don't like gimmicky, I can throw this in anything engines. Honestly, this is meant to, kind of simplify the Invoked. My problem's not really with Mech Knights in general. I actually love Mech Knights. Really good deck, really strong, really competitive. I just don't like the Invoke being splashed in with it, because Invoked is another 9-card engine that pretty much just splashes into anything. Oh, I run a light monster. I can run Macabre. Everybody gets aggravated at that. Everybody who sees like 9 spots open in the card engine says, oh, Invoked. Spellbook. And that's just, it gets aggravating to see after a while, because it makes me feel like every time Invoke gets splashed into something to make something better, they're never going to hit the Invoked engine, despite the fact that Invoked will be the problem in the deck. They're always going to go after the deck that it gets thrown into, not paying attention to what the real problem is. Another one that kind of irks me is just the fact that decks really don't get the representation that they really should, and Zephyr is a prime example. I happen to love Zephyr. It's a really strong, really consistent deck. It's a really good setup. I take kind of pride in Zephyr because it is kind of the rogue tier choice, but when Pendulum Magician gets hit, everybody's going to be going to Trickstar, Mech Knight Invoked. If True Draco is still around by some godsend of a miracle, please Konami ban True Draco. But if, anybody kind of looks at it and says, well, let's go to the next Pendulum deck that's good, everybody's going to say, Metal Foes Engine, Zephyr. Those will be the 2 key ones that everybody's going to look at, and it's going to cause more problems than what it's worth, because the deck doesn't get the representation that it should, despite the fact that it can make tops with very little representation of its own. Zephyr has been claiming top 32s, top 16s, top 8s at regionals. You've seen a top 32 Zephyr at YCS Bochum. You see a lot of good players piloting good decks, and because they don't get the representation that they deserve, they kind of fall off to the wayside. I think, honestly, with the equal amount of representation as Pendulum Magicians, I think that Zephyr could actually take Pendulum Magician for the top spot in the meta. And my next concept, just in general, goes to Link Monsters. Because with Master Rule 4, they kind of made any deck that uses the extra deck kind of play me or die. And it railroaded a lot of decks. It killed pretty much every deck that's older than 2014. Even killed a lot of decks that are newer than 2015. Only ones that didn't really seem to hit was Zodiac, True Draco, Pendulum Magicians, Metal Foes, and Cleaforp, but that's because Clee was pretty much already dead to begin with. And by instituting Link Monsters on top of these already penalized decks, it made it to where some of their support, or even their entire deck as a whole, was just completely unplayable. And until these Link Monsters come out, we can't really continue with it. Now me, I happen to really like Links. Slows the game down, makes you have to spend your extra resources for good effects, makes it to where you can't summon out 5 extra deck monsters in a turn. Those are all really good aspects of the cards for me, and I really do happen to like the idea that they made card placement matter. As a Cyberdark Impact enthusiast, people will claim it's the worst set ever, but I think Star Pack Vrains kind of takes it out of the spotlight. So, I honestly say that card placement should have been a bigger deal to begin with, which is why I say that links are really good for the game, because it makes more strategy possible. But a lot of people would disagree with the idea of needing card placement, but it takes more skill. It takes planning. It takes, scheduling things ahead to figure out what you're going to do in the order you want to do it. But the concept is that, like with Zephyr, their Link Monster was extremely underwhelming. The only good thing about it's the number of arrows that benefit you and nothing for your opponent. Isolde, it's generic warrior support, but to get full benefit out of it, you have to run equip cards, which is pretty much Noble Knight exclusive. Underclock Taker's a good generic, so is Decode Talker, but the thing is being able to abuse stuff like Scapegoat to make Firewall and Borreload is just insane. And really, I just feel like running like token generating cards to spam out your link monsters, it's another, like free gimmick. I understand that, they shouldn't have, if they didn't intend for it to be done like that, they shouldn't have made tokens usable for link summons. But let's give credit where credit is due. Gofu's tokens couldn't be used for anything, pretty much. Scapegoat, you're giving up your summon, which it's going to be played on your opponent's turn majority anyway. But a lot of the times when it comes to the tokens, they couldn't be used, they could never be used for Xyz summons. And they're pretty much only usable for synchro material unless it specifies otherwise. So the only thing you could really give tokens without them being cast to the wayside was links. And now everybody sees these big token generators and they say, hey, free Decode Talker, free Borreload, free Saryuja. And it's being abused to the point now to where Grinder Golem, rest in peace Grinder Golem, is going to be outright banned because it's just an over-abusable card. We don't have Security Dragon, but we don't really need it. We have a Koshik. And a Koshik into Firewall is really just kind of the bread and butter with Grinder Golem now if you can manage to get any other monsters on the field. It's just abusable as all hell. But that's my rant and rave for Thursday. Go ahead and like, comment, subscribe. You want to disagree with it and argue with it, leave a comment down below. Love to hear what you think. And I'd love to go ahead and be that guy that you all love to hate. This is Ryan signing off.